Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Command Point. My name's Ryan. Today, I'm here with Shane, and Shane, we're doing another tier list. What tier list are we? Is this going to be for?
So this is going to be for the spring tier list. We're a little late on it,
Yeah.
but
Also, this is like specifically for the Atlantic City Open, Kill Team Championships tournament, right?
yeah, and this is coming up in less than a month now.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's start off with AdMech.
Sure, right at the top. So they're a unique one because they are, well, first of all, the tournament is, for those of you unaware, this is hold one, hold more, kill one, 125 points. And there's a few unique things about this tournament. For starters, 3 CP per turn for every team. This is going to be pretty important
Yeah.
when, I guess, putting all this into perspective of how we're evaluating teams. And AdMech, I mean, it's hard to discount AdMech, right? I mean, they're one of the strongest teams in Kill Team. They always have been. But they're not an easy team to play, so they're not someone we see consistently placing, top four, top eight, or anything like that. But they're good, right?
Yeah, they're good. The big thing to me that stands out the most when looking at this tournament packet and the maps and everything is that fast moving kill teams, so just kill teams that have models that have good movement, that are durable, and that have a lot of like melee damage output. I think those are going to be the models that we see, or those are the kill teams, I should say, that we're going to see have the most success. And I don't think that AdMech are one of those teams. Like, they're good, but in this particular format, I don't see them any higher than like B tier.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And another thing is, even though this is an open board tournament, the terrain is really dense and there's a lot of it. And there's even doors on these open boards, which is super weird. But I mean, AdMech's strongest playstyle is plasma, like mobile shooting plasma spam.
Yep.
And with such dense terrain, they can really fall victim to being, in a situation where they go first and their opponent can go second and hide everything. And I mean, they've got decent melee, but it's hard to fully lean into it, especially outside of like commanders or something.
Right.
So I would say they're probably going to be somewhere in B tier.
Another thing that I want to mention before we go further is that all the rules for the new Pariah Nexus expansion are going to be used in this packet at this tournament. Is that right?
All of a lot of the stratagems for ultra close confines are being used on here. They aren't doing the no escape rule, which I was a little bit disappointed in. I think that's one of the best new rules from that expansion. But and they aren't doing the 14 model cap. So
Okay.
that's all relevant.
So kind
Which
of
yeah.
this whole tier list basically is going to be based, for me at least, in my opinion, of the kill teams that we're going to talk about. It's revolving around how good are they in a Space Marine matchup. That's
Yeah.
basically what it comes down to ultimately here. So let's move on now to Astra Militarum. So
Yeah.
Astra Militarum they're still a good team. They got basically all of like the ninth edition weapons updates that have been implemented through this packet. So
Yeah, the
like,
packet specifically gives all the new Space Marine weapons to the like all the new profiles for those weapons to the factions that already have them. And
right.
Astra Militarum benefit greatly from this. Like
Yeah.
a lot.
So they were already good. They're getting the new weapon profiles. The retainer models are still fantastic. They're still super flexible, and we were talking about with AdMech, like the shooting isn't going to be as powerful here, but I think a good player can still leverage Astra Militarum's fantastic shooting with all of those like good melee models like the Bulgaren and Gottfried, and still have a good matchup against most factions. So for me, they're an A tier.
So for me, I would like to make the case for S tier for
Ooh,
Astra Militarum.
okay.
I think they might be, if not for Astartes, they might be the best team on this format. Obviously, I mean, we've seen they have an incredible capability for just action economy and getting around the map and doing things they aren't supposed to be able to do. And the big thing for me, outside of the fact that they're getting all these updated weapons, is 3CP is a format that they really like because Militarum has a wealth of amazing stratagems. And they have really good 2CP stratagems too that they can now use once they get into 3CP territory. And I mean, you throw 12-inch flamers onto that, and the fact that they're one of the only teams that can reliably handle Space Marines, and it's 125, so they get like access to Bulgrins. I mean, I think they're really, really good on this format, and it's open board, and they can use their deep strike with the Scions, just to like drop 3 meltaguns in your face turn 1, or a hotshot volley gun somewhere. I just think they just have everything, and they're ridiculously strong in this format. So I would,
Yeah.
for me, they're like up there as a top 3 team above a lot of the other ones.
Yeah, for sure. The only reason that I don't have them at S tier on my list, in all honesty, is just because they're not Space Marines. Spoiler alert: Space Marines are an S tier faction. Um, so I guess we'll just sit them at top A, potentially
Okay.
S, but let's see how the rest of it works out. How do you feel about Asuryani?
I think they're really good. I think they like 3CP quite a bit. I don't think they get much better than they already are. They do have a lot of really good 1CP tactics. You can absolutely win ACO with Asuryani. There's no doubt about that. But they don't stand out to me the way that like Militarum or a few other teams do. Um, but I think they would be like, I see them as an A tier faction, maybe low A, but like
I have them at B on my list.
I definitely think they're well ahead of AdMech
Yeah.
on the format. I don't know, like they have a lot of really good tactics. They do benefit from the 12-inch flamers, whereas a lot of other teams don't. A lot of other Xenos teams don't. I mean, maybe you could put them at the top of B, but
Yeah. We'll
I
do
see
so just
them.
because my list for A tier is kind of crowded. So they didn't really gain anything except the flamers for the most part. But
Yeah, and they like
yeah.
3CP. Well, it
Yeah.
is also worth considering that they have a really good deep strike strategy that everybody forgets about because it's 2CP. So nobody really uses
Right.
it.
Oh.
Um, but with 3CP, you can actually use it and have like command points left over. Like you can, and it's any 3 models. So you can deep strike like a Wraith Guard and like 2 gunners, or like a Wraith Guard and a Scorpion and something else. They're strong. You can definitely win the tournament with Asuryani.
All right. So let's move on now to Death Guard. So Death Guard are slightly different in this packet than in just like standard kill team play or other kill team packets that we've seen, in that they can field up to 3 Death Guard fighter Space Marine models. I guess that's their only big change here. I like them a lot. I think with that they get +1 more capable melee fighter. They're already a pretty durable team, and they have some near invincible Terminator models. I really like them for this melee oriented packet and terrain layout. The only weakness that I can think of is their relatively slow movement.
Mhm.
So for me, I think they're in B tier.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'd probably be a low B, high C. The extra fighter definitely increases their capability to be like an elite team if they want to, and I mean that's definitely a big thing for a meta that is hold one, hold more, kill one.
Exactly.
Is like cheap as poxwalkers are, they just bleed primary points when you take too many of them. I do think that Death Guard have a lot of pretty decent stratagems. They don't have a lot of like amazing ones. I know that like they have a lot of 1CP tactics that I always find myself wanting to use more at 2CP, but I usually don't. It's definitely tough. I think they're probably below AdMech, and yeah, there was,
Let's
for what it's worth, there was a tournament. It was only an 8-man tournament, but Janice was there in Maryland this this past weekend, and it was won by Death Guard. So,
Okay.
and it was on this packet, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so I would say let's slot them into C just because no one's there, but we'll put them at bottom of B just because they have that recent tournament victory. Okay, so next up we've got Deathwatch. And
Ooh,
Shane, I am excited to say that Deathwatch is no longer D tier.
yeah, they have escaped the clutches of low tier mediocrity,
Yeah,
and they're one of the best teams in the game right now. Like,
yeah,
no joke.
yeah. They benefited from all like the Space Marine changes in the Pariah Nexus book. The lowest wound count for any of their models is now 2 wounds. They are super flexible in just all the different weapons that they can take now. They have like even more access to weapons, and they arguably had a better arsenal of weapons than baseline Space Marines pre Pariah Nexus. Their melee capabilities are just as good as standard Space Marines.
Yeah.
They have a bunch of really useful tactics that they can actually leverage now since they've got, 3 CP. And I think they can go toe to toe with Space Marines and are like each one of those models is individually lethal enough to kill 1 or 2 Space Marines a turn.
Yeah,
So
I
I
mean,
think,
Deathwatch, they're good.
yeah,
They are
they're good.
scary.
Yeah. So for me, I've got them at A tier. What about you?
I mean, when you're thinking about like what S tier is like if a good player's taking this, they're probably like one of the favorites to win it. I almost want to put them at S tier. Like they are so good right now.
The only thing that's keeping me from doing that is simply the fact that we haven't seen in a long, long time like any sort of like real success with them. But I mean,
Yeah,
like if like this is the tournament to do it.
100%. I mean, this is not the same Deathwatch we've been seeing for 2 years. Like a brand new faction.
Yeah.
It's like taking all the good things about Deathwatch and just amplifying them and making them way better and getting rid of a lot of the downsides. And in many ways, Deathwatch, they eliminate some of the downsides that regular Marines have. Just by like a Deathwatch veteran it's still 2 wounds. It's basically a company veteran, but it's cheaper than a company veteran. It's only 15 points, and that goes a long way. So yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, I would put them above Militarum.
Okay. We'll do that then. Top of A. Next up, we have got the Drukhari. This is a team. Now, here's a team. We all know Drukhari are good. My issue with them is that I feel like they are more durable than they are lethal. Against Space Marines, it's like you've got like 3 wound Blade Guard veteran with storm shields to worry about. All of the Space Marines have 2 wounds now. I honestly don't know if they can compete. And being that this is a format that is not very friendly to them, given that it's hold one, hold more, kill one, and these secondaries they're not the friendliest. I think like Drukhari players will have to like work for it in this tournament, and so I've got them down at C tier actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
ooh, hard disagree.
yeah,
Personally, I think Drukhari are like this is a packet to me. When I look at this packet, I see this is going to be like the secondary specifically. Scoring is kind of a challenge for a lot of teams, uh, but for Drukhari, it's not. Drukhari are already so good in so many ways. While they don't have the most amazing matchup against Astartes, I definitely still think it's winnable. I think they're better than all 3 of the teams in B tier by quite a bit, in my opinion. Like
oh,
I think open board with the Mandrake deep strikes and their high movement, being able to open doors from farther distances. Just the way that they can maneuver around the terrain, and they can play the shooty game, they can play the melee game so well. I really feel high on them right now.
let's slot them into top B then. Next up, I'm just gonna defer to you for this. This is Gellerpox infected.
Gellerpox, yeah, I mean Gellerpox is interesting. They are a team that is. We always talk about how good they are in arena, and how much they struggle on these open boards. But I
Right.
guess this is a different open board, I guess, archetype than what we've looked at in the past. This is a very dense open board, as we've mentioned already. There are doors, there are lots of like 3-inch or higher terrain. There are a few problems though. For starters, they're some of their coolest stratagems. Like they have a stratagem about holding a door closed. You can't do that anymore. That's just not a thing that Gellerpox get in Kill Team anymore because you don't get to hold doors closed anymore because we're playing with the new Pry Nexus Ultra Close Confines rules. While I do think that having a big horde of really cheap bodies with high LD, I mean, there's still value to it, even in a format with hold one, hold more, kill one. The models that are going to be doing the heavy lifting for you for kill one are the Hulks for the most part. And those models are really, really slow. I mean, like 4-inch movement, that's just not going to cut it most of the time. It's a little bit difficult. Granted, you can run a double Hulk list at 125, and the Kill Team Stream subfactions are allowed on this packet, so you can give all your models an additional AP1. And there's a couple other ones, but the additional AP1 is my favorite. They struggle to move around the board fast enough with the big models. Those flies, I mean, they're going to be everywhere. You're going to
Yeah.
have no issue scoring positionals with this team. But I mean, they are very, very slow
Yeah.
outside of the flies.
So where do you think they're going to land?
I would probably put them C tier.
All right. So the next faction up is Genestealer Cult. This faction is they're very weak. Just in terms of their durability.
They die when you look at them.
Yeah, I feel like they're just going to be giving up too much to kill base secondaries and the kill primary. It's going to take like a really good player to pilot them effectively, just like at a basic level to just get like a positive win record. I don't see this team being higher than low C tier.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would just because of the potential for their like a good player can pilot this team really far. They're not an easy team to pick up and play, but I think because of the potential, I would put them above Gellerpox. I think they have a few more tools, and I mean, there is something to be said for there are few teams that can kill a Marine more reliably than Genestealer Cult
That is true.
with rock cutters. Like those weapons are absolutely insane. And yes, they die very easily, but they do have high leadership, so it's not like they're a horde that's breaking once you start to cut through them. And they're going to be able to get kill one a lot of the time, even if they're giving up kill one. And they're going to flood the board. Yeah, I would put them at the top of C tier.
All right, so next up here we have got the Grey Knights. Grey Knights in this packet, we'll be talking about this immediately after, but so Harlequins have a special rule in this packet where any team that has like Cybolt, basically, it can only use Cybolt once, or it can only target a single Harlequin model.
Yeah.
So Grey Knights normally they get 2 Cybolts. If one of those Cybolts kills a Harlequin, it doesn't get to use the second Cybolt. So like automatically this team is neutered in what is usually its best tournament matchup. And with Space Marines, Deathwatch going up to, 2 wounds for even just like a basic Space Marine, the psychic factions in this game don't really scare me as much as they used to anymore. So I think they're in D tier.
Yeah, I think this is probably the worst look for a Grey Knight since before Elites came out. They just do not. They used to really scare Marines. Now they don't really scare Marines like whatsoever.
Not at all.
For what it's worth, I still think they win the Harlequin matchup, even with that change. Or at least they should. It just becomes a little bit more even. They aren't that hard to kill, relatively speaking. They're just 1 wound Marines.
Yep. That's the other thing too. All the other Marines got them, and they haven't yet.
Yeah, I mean, in most matchups, they should reliably be getting kill 1 consistently, but they're never going to get hold more. And I don't think they benefit that much from 3 CP as much as other teams do.
Yeah.
Granted, I think all psychic teams like 3 CP, just like as a rule. They don't scare me that much on this format at all.
Next up, we have Harlequins. What do you think of Harlequins?
I think this is probably the best format for Harlequins, like possibly ever.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, we talk about the dense terrain and the doors and everything and these big towers. None of that means anything to Harlequins. They just go right over it. And
with
the
their
biggest,
flip belts and their
yeah,
3d6 charge range.
for sure, yeah. And I mean, I think the biggest issue that Harlequins run into is Marines. I just don't think they have a very good answer for it, whether it's Deathwatch or Space Marines. But
Don't
still, they're so fast. I mean, they can like zip around the board so quickly, and they present such a problem for a lot of different teams, especially T3 teams. Like I think they give trouble to Guard and Drukhari and Asuryani and AdMech. And it's like they present such unique problems because they just ignore so many basic rules in the game.
right.
And it is to a point where it's like, how do I deal with this? Harlequins scare me in this packet.
I actually have them in A tier, Shane.
Really?
Yeah, don't they have a strength 5 melee weapon?
They do, but it's only
Yeah.
one damage, which is my problem with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
AP2.
But I mean, like, that's good. That's good against Marines. Strength 5 is great against Marines. They get a lot of attacks. They have that 1 CP tactic where you can, like, swap the positioning of two Harlequins that are in combat, and then they're both considered to have charged. I honestly think they're A tier. They're just so flexible, I think, on this packet.
I think they're really good. I just cannot put them above Drukhari. B tier.
Yeah,
Right
B
there.
tier, right under Drukhari. So next up here, we have got Heretic Astartes. I've got one word for you here, Shane. It's Berserkers.
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of like the packet that Berserkers love, right? Dense terrain, it's arena-esque. These guys, they get to fight twice, just, with their game-breaking melee activations that the Berserkers get. They're good.
They definitely are. And that's a really good point about the terrain and how dense it is and how it kind of operates similarly to Arena. The only problems for me really are 3 CP doesn't benefit them that much. They just don't have very great stratagems. All the like Astartes and Deathwatch models are now two wounds. Like a regular Berserker, even with his 2 activations, doesn't do that well against a Marine. And they kind of like Grey Knights, they die so easily once you put decent attacks into them. They do get some of the weapon upgrades, like the Heavy Bolter, I think is a big one. What is it called? The new Flamers, which are going to be really good for those cultists, especially. They remind me a little bit of Genestealer Cult, where they are not the most durable, but they are super killy, and I think a good player could do really well with them. I feel like I always just default to saying heretics are better than Death Guard.
I think they're pretty much even. Monofaction Kroot, F tier.
Well, okay, I will say one thing. With the subfactions, the LVO subfactions, they have been changed a little bit for this tournament. They got much better than they used to be. I mean, that's not saying much. They were quite bad before.
Yeah.
So the biggest changes, for starters, I believe he got rid of the limit for Kroot riders, or he made it
He
like
did.
3 or 4 to a point, and he got rid of the limit for Kroot hounds. There's a couple new subfactions. One of them is basically all of your models get a 5-up feel no pain. Pretty good. Definitely helpful for those Kroot riders who have like 4 wounds and are toughness 5. And it's helpful even for the 1 wound models. I mean, you can't, like, 5-up feel no pains are pretty nice. And then the other one is if you, hypothetically, other than your Kroot rider, if your entire team is Kroot hounds, only Kroot hounds, then you just get to re-roll all failed wound rolls. If you take the subfaction, you can make your Kroot rider your leader. So those 2 things, they actually intrigue me. Because, I mean, Krootox or the Kroot Hounds, those things are fast. They have like 12-inch movement. And they have a 1 CP stratagem where if you get to the injury roll with them, you just spend 1 CP and it becomes a 2 damage injury roll. All these things are actually kind of decent.
Can we expect like these teched out Kroot teams to show up to this tournament?
Probably not. But
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it would be enough to make them D tier for me. We're in the big leagues now.
Yep.
I would do it. Yeah, I would put them at the bottom of D tier. Definitely nowhere near Grey Knights, but like that is interesting to me.
All right, so moving on here to Necrons. Necrons were the boogeyman for the longest time, Shane. Do you think that in this packet that's still the case even after their Pariah Nexus nerfs?
I don't think that's the case. They scare me a lot less than they used to. I'm looking at the factions in B tier, and I just don't know where Necrons fit. Their shooting isn't as good as AdMech, and they're slower than AdMech as well, and they're about as fast as Death Guard, really. Necrons are just in kind of a weird spot right now. I feel that they're strong, but it's not as easy as it used to be.
Yeah, no,
And if
that's for
you're taking
sure.
yeah, and if you're taking the models that can actually kill Marines, then you're running a pretty small list. You're probably only running like 6 or 7 bodies, and most of those bodies are going to be pretty slow. And if you are running a lot of bodies, you don't have a lot of kill potential unless you're going like shooty, in which case you might as well just play AdMech. I want to say they're at the top of C tier.
I don't know. Resurrection Protocols is still unchanged, and like they definitely did get nerfed, but I think they're still a really good faction. I don't know if they're that far down into C tier. I
Well, I
think
think there's
it's
also like I don't know. I mean, they are definitely more durable than any team in B tier, without a doubt.
yeah, that's the thing that's got me like that had me thinking that they're A.
I think not much worse, but I think they're worse than Drukhari and Harlequins and Eldar. Maybe we can put them like I can definitely
In
see the argument.
between AdMech and Death Guard, maybe?
Yeah, I would be okay with that because I do think AdMech are better. AdMech are just such a strong shooting team, and it's like yeah, reanimation protocols is still a problem, but it's much less of a problem when
They're
there's less models to deal with,
yeah,
and they're not as killy as they used to be.
yeah. So next up we have got Orcs. Once again, I'm gonna defer to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably playing Orcs for ACO. I mean, I think they're really strong in the format. I think that they have the weapons and the tools to beat Marines. They don't just have the options to beat Marines. They have the options to beat T3 as well. And you can run like an Evil Sun's Horde and do really well against just about everything other than Marines. But I think if you're in Death Skulls, you have the options to do well against everything. And you give yourself a lot of or not flexibility, but like leeway in the primary game, which is kill one. It's not easy to kill orc knobs for most teams, even though I mean it's only a 4-up save. They have a lot of staying power, and they have more offensive melee output than I think any team in the game. I think I would say that confidently, other than maybe Necrons, but orcs have the ability to get in much easier than Necrons, and their melee models are a lot cheaper. So it's like it's a weird thing where how strong are these elite orcs? Because I think they have the mobility, even without Evil Suns, to hang in there. They have the offensive output to beat any team, and they have more durability than a lot of the teams we have in B tier. I mean, I think orcs are A tier. I wouldn't put them above Militarum, but I think they're up there.
All right, so we've got Servants of the Abyss. Do servants have anything cool in this packet that they got?
I'm trying to think if they I don't think they got any specific like datasheet changes. They do have their LVO subfactions. I'm going to be honest, they're really underwhelming. There is one that lets you add one to advance and charge rolls, which is probably the best one. Even that is a little bit underwhelming, especially because a lot of the models on this team, they don't have much AP. I mean, they have some AP on the Chaos Ogren, but that is like the most overpriced model in the game. It's like over 50 points.
Yeah,
That's
it's ridiculous.
yeah, I mean, I don't see it with servants at all. I mean, they just seem like a much worse version of Astra Militarum to me. I think servants are probably F tier for me.
Okay. All right, so next up, this is probably not up for debate. We
Yeah.
have got Space Marines at S tier. This is just from a myriad of things. Everything except scouts having at least 2 wounds. Getting the Blade Guard veterans, I think, is good, but it's not nearly as good as all of the other models, like going up to 2 wounds.
Mhm.
Storm shields galore, a lot of different just customization weapon options. They've got great durability with Death Denied and Battle Brothers tactics. Death Denied is 3 CP. You're easily getting 3 CP every turn. They're the team to beat.
Yeah, I mean, 3 CP a turn is so good for them. It's just like it becomes such a difficult problem, and the fact that it's hold one, hold more, kill one is fantastic for them. Yeah, they just got so much. I would anticipate that if somebody brings like a truly competitive Astartes list to ACO, they can definitely show up and win that tournament.
All right, so moving potentially to the opposite end of the spectrum, we have Elucidian Starstriders. I was looking through the packet this morning, and the only thing I saw about Starstriders is that you can take a unlimited amount of Voidsmen. That really doesn't do anything for me. I have them at F tier. Moving on now to Tau. For me, I honestly don't know where they belonged. At one point during the day today, I thought that they might be as low as C tier. Looking at this hold one, hold more, kill one primary system with the way that the secondaries are set up, I honestly don't know where they land.
I think they're A tier because I don't think there are, other than Orks and Militarum and obviously Deathwatch, I think Tau is one of the only teams that can handle Marines, but they do it in a different way, and that way is shield drones. You can throw out like a really strong, killy 25-point model that will never die for Astartes, but it doesn't matter if that model's stuck in combat with a single shield drone.
Moving on now to Thousand Suns. Everything that I said about Grey Knights applies to these guys. Are there like warp flamers? Do they have the 12-inch range now?
The Warp Flamers are still 8-inch. I mean,
Ooh.
I think Thousand Suns are downright awful against Marines, but I mean, I think they're better than Grey Knights.
Oh, for sure. I have them both at D tier.
I'm thinking now if Thousand Suns are actually worse than Gellerpox, because we've got Gellerpox up there in C tier above them,
Right, right.
and I mean they might be worse than Gellerpox. Man, yeah, Thousand Suns are just so unequipped for the Marine meta right now. They just do not have the tools for it whatsoever. I mean, the Scarab Cult Sorcerer is a decent model,
Yeah.
and I think it's like to the point where I think you just need to take that model every single game,
Yeah,
regardless of
on
whether or
this
not you're.
packet, absolutely.
Yeah, like it's not even optional. You just got to bring that model every game. I don't know about D tier. I mean, I think you could probably put them at the bottom of C tier. Like they can take bodies, and they do pretty well against teams that aren't Marines.
Next up, we have Tyranids. You can't even, like, their whole thing with the Raveners and just being able to, like, keep doors closed on their opponent, like, that's not even a thing anymore. So, I mean, geez, I'm thinking D tier.
I think they're D tier. I was just talking about how Thousand Suns have a bad Marine matchup. Tyranids might as well give up against Marines. Like it is so difficult to deal with them. If you want any durability at all, you got to pay upwards of 40 points, and even then, it's not that durable. The Tyrant Guard at the end of the day, yeah, it's a 3-up save T5, but no invuln. Probably D tier, probably top of D tier. I don't know. Like I'd probably rather take them than Grey Knights, honestly.
Yeah, I
But
think
they're in
so.
a they're in a bad spot.
All right, another faction that you specialize in, Shane, Demons.
Yeah, I'm not too excited about demons at ACO personally. They like pretty much bleed kill one. They cannot kill Marines very well at all. I probably think they're D tier. This is probably one of the worst formats for them in a while at 125 points because usually it's 100 points holding them back in my eyes.
Yeah. All right, so
Um,
next up, we have got Sisters of Battle. And, after our conversation we had about Sisters of Battle on our Patreon podcast, I'm high on them and I shouldn't be. And that's just because of their arcoflagellants, I think. This is an arena-esque format. Arcoflails are good. You can take an unlimited amount of Repentia in this packet. That is interesting. What do you think of that?
well, that would increase the number of Repentia I run from 0 to. Actually, it wouldn't increase
Yeah.
because I would still run 0. But I will say they actually have some decent LVO subfactions. Like our Martyred Lady is a really good one. I forget what the name of the other one is. I want to say, I think it's Argent Shroud, where you can. They basically get like the Asuryani, like you're not counted as moving for the purpose of like shooting weapons.
Oh, okay.
Um, you can like advance with like a heavy bolter, a heavy flamer, and still shoot.
With a heavy
Uh,
bolter?
Yeah, because he doesn't
Wow.
specify heavy weapons. And sisters get those weapons in this packet. So they get the new super strong heavy bolter, and they get the 12-inch flamer and the 12-inch heavy flamer.
Ah.
Um, and they get strength 4 Goffret. Like, this is probably the best non-commanders format for sisters in like a really long time. And
Probably ever.
yeah, I think actually you're right. It is probably the best non-commanders format period for sisters since they've been released.
Do you think
I'm
that
really
all
high
that new stuff is enough to put them into B tier?
Oh, easily B tier.
Ooh, okay.
They like 3 CP as well because it lets them use Blessed Bolts, the Storm Bolter tactic. And they just have really good options. They have really good ways to spend their CP as well with the Enduran engine and the durability of the team. Like, you can run like 9 models at 125 and just have so many wounds. And with the close confines of it all, it's really easy to get these Arcos into combat and like set up charges out of LOS. I would put them above AdMech.
Sisters again, Sisters of Silence.
Yes.
For me, their whole shtick being able to deny psychic factions is just wasted here in this packet because of how poorly these psychic factions are probably going to perform overall. You know, it seems like they should have like all the tools to deal with any faction, but I personally just don't think I simply think they don't have enough in terms of like weapons options.
They are very one dimensional, but
Yeah.
I mean, for what it's worth, they have probably the best custom subfactions that this format allows.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
Uh,
that. So what are they?
if you can take one that allows your vigilators, which are the sword girls, to reroll charges, which is
That
fantastic.
is really good.
And there's another one that allows their bolt guns to be AP minus D3, which is also really good against T3.
Right.
Um, and they already have very good bolt guns with their tactics, which all their tactics are 1 CP, and like 3 CP is fantastic for that. They just get to utilize that, like those strengths a little bit more. And I actually think they can kill Marines, like the Vigilators can at least.
Yeah.
Especially with like a Zealot who's got like 4 attacks, and like you can pop the 1 CP tactic so that you're wounding on 2s, and it's basically a relic blade. It's AP3 D3 damage, and those they can cut right through. Their problem is that they're really one dimensional. I think they're better than all the teams in C tier. I'm looking at some of the teams in B tier. And this is probably a good time to talk about this because I feel like both Death Guard and Heretics feel out of place in B tier.
I do feel the same way.
I feel like they don't belong with the other teams there. And isn't like I guess they don't have as good of shooting as Death Guard or Heretic Astartes, either of those teams.
Yeah.
So they're probably worse than them, but I think they're better than Genestealer Cults or Gellerpox or Thousand Suns, especially Thousand Suns. So maybe we could like thin out B tier a little bit, throw down those 2 Chaos factions into C tier, and then put Sisters of Silence between them and the Genestealer Cult. I think that they're like the most average team in the game.
All right, last certainly least everybody's favorite faction, the Adeptus Custodes. For me these guys are, yeah, once again in this packet a non-starter, F tier.
With the new, like, if you were to give them a Storm Shield, they basically get like a super save because like you need AP2 just to get them to a 3-up. I mean, they're okay, but I don't think you can. I don't think you should ever be able to come close to winning a tournament with them, even in this format. Although I do think that they like hold one, hold more, kill one.
They do, but the thing is there's one of those primaries is still, well, two of them is holding. So you're
Yeah,
always going to have one of them like on your backfield objective, or you got to have some really good movement one of those turns. And
yeah. I
I
mean,
just don't see that happening with this faction.
most of the deployments, for what it's worth, from my experience playing on it, have easy access to one objective, so they're always going to get hold one, I think.
Yeah.
And they should always get kill one, but the problem is they don't always get kill one. They should, but they don't.
Yep.
That's the problem with having only 3 models. So I don't think they're F tier, but I would probably put them above Kroot, and that's about it. And
Yeah.
like no one else.
All right. Before we wrap this up, is there anything on here we think we should change?
I still think S tier belongs to 2 factions. Yeah, Space Marines and Deathwatch. I think Space Marines are better than Deathwatch, but I still think Deathwatch is head and shoulders above most of the other teams.
And that coupled with Deathwatch, I think have a really good matchup against basic Space Marines.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just that the Xenophase blade on the Watch Sergeant.
That's a good.
It just ignores invulnerable saves.
Oh, that's so strong. Yeah.
Like, are you
Um,
kidding me? And it's strength +1 AP3. It's like,
yeah.
oh my gosh.
We're gonna definitely be doing some Deathwatch content.
We
in the
will
very
be doing a Deathwatch deep dive soon. So stay tuned for that, guys. Thank you all for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more Kill Team content. Like and comment if you're feeling that way. If you want to support us, you can head over to Patreon, where you can get access to exclusive episodes of the Command Point podcast and some other videos. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you again in the next one.